Do you need encouragement to turn tragedies into your own triumphant life story? If so, this podcast is for you. Listen to powerful guests who have persevered through challenges so you can gain strength to build your championship life. The host of Professor of Perseverance podcast, Dr. James Purdue.
Hey, come on in here again today. Let's get some motivation and inspiration. Let's get some encouragement. Let's get some knowledge. Let's get something that's going to give us something to grab a hold of. That when struggling takes place, we can refer back to this and know that we can help other people and have a good life, no matter what happened to us. Hey, may not be the best life, but it can be better than what we would have if we just sit and mold and did nothing about it. Today, we're going to interview it's going to be pretty good here. All right, pretty good here. I got a friend. Let's go back here. I got a friend real quick. He's got a DUI. All right, 40 years ago. And he's told me for 40 years, I can't get a job because of my record. What? That's 40 years ago you got that DUI. And he says, because of my record, I can't get a job. I said, okay. So, don't want to hurt his feelings, but I did say, I just don't think you want to work. But what do I know? So, all right. But on this one here, according to what I've read and everything, she said 17 felonies. So his one felony with the DUI, she got 17. And she decided to wake up, change her life, and do something about it, and get out and help other people. Welcome to the show, Ginny Burton.
Hello, Professor of Perseverance.
Hey, I got to get a bell when people start doing all that stuff and ding, 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 ding. So I got to do something to make it when they jump out like that. Hey, appreciate you being here. And also I appreciate you being here and sharing your valuable time with us because we know time is valuable. So, yes. All right, again, we've mentioned a little bit. We're not going to go piece by piece by piece by piece. No. You just give it a general idea, what was going on with your life, where you were, and then let's get into how you conquered this.
Absolutely. So, well, I was born in 1972. Both of my parents were addicts.
Oh, hold on. My grandfather would do it like this. It was back in 1972.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Back in 1972, I entered the world.
There you go.
My parents were, they were addicts, and I had no idea. I don't think any of my siblings had any idea. It was a while before I even understood what that meant. And about 4 years into my very colorful life, my dad was taken to prison. Our house was raided. I was standing out on the top of the steps. And what I had learned as a result of his incarceration was that it was because of drugs. That was really all the details I remember ever getting. So I was pretty terrified of drugs. Academically, at the time, I was tested and put into school early. They labeled me as gifted. And then a couple of short years later, my mom, who was already remarried, introduced me to drugs. I didn't want to, but the pressure was more than I could really handle as a 7-year-old kid. And I gave in because it provided me acceptance. And so my life just kind of spiraled out of control for about 30 years. And everything.
Okay, let me ask this, Ginny, that you said your mother got you into it, of course, 7 years old. Yeah, I don't do that. I don't know what you're talking about and everything. And you followed mom's pressure. I understand that. But why did she want to get you involved? I would think this would be something she's going, no, you stay away from that. I mean, I grew up, my mom and dad, they smoked cigarettes. That's about as far as we got. They drank occasionally on the weekends. But one day I was saying, hey, I want to try smoking. No, you can't do this. You don't want to do it. And they'll give me all the reasons why not to. And of course, I'm thinking, why are y'all doing it? I didn't know if your mom just didn't want to do it by herself. She wanted to have someone with her, to have company, follow my shoes. I don't know.
I mean, your guess is as good as mine. I can speculate. I have speculated. I do speculate at times. Mm-hmm. What I would probably imagine is that I was kind of a weak link. I had a couple of teenage brothers at the time, and well, at least one of them was nearly a teenager, and they had devised a plan with my mom to smoke weed when her husband was out of town for chemotherapy because he had colon cancer, and so and I think that really getting me to do it along with everybody else was a way to keep me quiet about it. So
Okay.
I don't think that my mom had the strongest or best skill set. I think that she probably had some, personality disorders that affected her life, and I think she was probably unaware. She was a young mom with a whole bunch
Hmm.
of kids and just very unskilled. And so yeah, but her and my relationship, which was very volatile for a long time, um led down that road of addiction. And with it came violence, with it came criminal behavior, with it came incarceration, with it came further domestic violence relationships that mimicked her and my relationship.
Hmm.
So my patterns and my foundation were created around the sickness of addiction. And so
Well,
yeah, and
you grew up, it's what you knew.
it is what I knew. Yeah, and
Yeah. When you
even
grow up, it's what you
though,
know. Yeah.
yeah, I felt spiritually conflicted for a really long time. And I personally held myself responsible for not making a stronger choice and saying no. And it wasn't until I was in my 40s that I had the opportunity to consider my youngest child, who was roughly the age that I was when I made the decision to use with my family.
Hmm.
And I had to ask myself if I thought she was capable of being as strong as I expected myself to be. And I just don't think so. She's a tiny little child and very impressionable. And so, it was at the age of 40 that while I was sitting in a prison or a jail cell looking at a fourth prison term, that I was able to actually forgive myself for making that choice and having understanding for my 7-year-old self. And so and
See,
that
that's huge in itself, right there,
that's
because
where the healing started.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're taught in an early age, forgive other people who we felt has hurt
Hmm.
us, you know,
Yeah.
but rarely are we taught to forgive ourselves for our mistakes. And I
That's
think that is huge when we forgive ourselves and learn from the mistakes and learn from the journey and move on. But
yeah.
that's huge in itself when you said you forgave yourself while in cell.
Yeah. I mean, so what had happened, of course, the addiction spiraled out of control. I became all of the things that I swore that I never would. I was a despicable human and could not stand the person that was looking back at me in the mirror. So when I didn't die, which I gave it my best shot, and I ended up, facing myself in another jail cell, looking at a prison sentence, I knew at that point that I had better figure out how to start living. And that's when I started to implement some change. And there's a saying that when the pain to remain becomes greater than the pain to change, that's when we take action, right?
Hmm.
And so I just and that was almost 10 years ago. And um, it's been a wild and really, really, really hard journey, but it's
Oh,
one,
I have no doubt of that.
yeah, it's,
I
you
mean, because for
understand.
40 years, mine has been born the first 6 years, but the 40 years, all you known is this life.
That's right.
And now, past 10 years, getting out of it and staying out of it.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
it's been quite the journey. I remember, my first prison sentence, I had hopes, to sort of implement something in my life. I was unsuccessful. And then 7 short months later, after my first release, I ended up getting 3 more felony charges and going back for another 5 years. That is when I really had a deep understanding that I was a drug addict, and that if I at least remove the drugs from my life, that I might have a chance. So that was in 97 that I was arrested, and I made the decision to be abstinent. I didn't really have a lot of, oh gosh, I don't know, services that were, available to
yeah.
me because
Uh-huh.
prison isn't really set up that way. And so, but I did what I could, and I piecemealed together something. And then I stayed clean for almost 2 years after my release. So my journey toward, I think, independence sort of started back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I think things definitely could have been different if, certain components were in place that would have actually helped me to overcome some things, which has been what my focus has become over this last decade. The first portion of this last decade has been, okay, how does Ginny stabilize Ginny? How does Ginny refragment the fractured pieces of her, internal self?
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully the universe, God, whatever a person wants to describe it as, has shown up. That saying that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I've had so many people land in my path that have taught me what I needed in order to make it beyond these places that I didn't think I could make it beyond in the past. And what it's done is it's kept me afloat one day at a time, right? And I've stopped putting mood changing, mind altering substances into my body. And as I started to love and take care of myself and treat myself like a person that I respected, it has given me an opportunity to become far more aware of what the problem is surrounding other people's lives similar to myself. So it's become my mission essentially to, create intervention and
Mm-hmm.
support in the lives of people similar to myself, because right now we're not seeing that anywhere in our nation. We're seeing something quite contrary. So, we've been at one really stark end of the pendulum, and now we're way over on this other one. And what we need is something in between. And so, I don't think that my story is an accident. I think that it was very intentional, on the part of my higher power. And it's given me an opportunity to, try to give people the same equation, I think, that I've been able to solve in my own life. So, and to help them find their way to their own solution.
Yes. Now, again, let's go with you've had 17 felonies.
That's correct.
All right, 17, and the pain of finally hating where you're at and it's time to change is come now. And
Yes.
so pick it up from there. How fast once you get out, or you may have been starting your change while you're in and preparing for when you got out from there. So what took place?
Yeah. So, well, 17 felonies happened over a period of time, and that's not including my juvenile record. I started being arrested at about the age of 13. My last arrest, I was 40. And during that time, I accrued a number of criminal charges. And so, each time I got the opportunity to be separated from the destructive environment, ideas about what I wanted my life to look like would, come up, and I needed that clarity in order to even formulate an idea, right? And have sort of, I think, a marker as to what I wanted to at least aim for, right? And I wasn't necessarily equipped with the information I needed to actually, to reach that that target, but I definitely, did what I could to try to get there. And so, and I think that when it comes to, and I appreciated the story that you shared about your friend in the beginning, because I cannot tell you how many people and it's always funny to me, right? Because I literally 17 felony convictions and a number of incarcerations. And I'm just not one of those kind of people that you can tell me that I can't, and that I'm actually going to believe you or listen to you, right? And so I might argue with you a little bit, maybe flip you off, I don't know. But, at the end of the day, it's like, I'm not going to let somebody tell me what I can or can't do. I'm very, very rebellious in that way. And then I think that it served me quite well. So, I had this idea about what I wanted to do, and I felt very compelled long before I ever actually got there to be of service to others, because I'm really good, even in the drug world. I am really good at being the middle person, having and maintaining relationships, and being a navigator to get what it is that you need. And so it's very similar in regards to, everything that I'm doing in my life now. It's all about finding and creating relationships, maintaining those relationships, and essentially, just creating a web, a network, not just for myself, but for anybody else to be able to access things. And I think that that's been a huge benefit to me when it comes to being able to get out and, and do these things that other people say, oh, it's just not possible, I can't do that. Because I really like to highlight what is actually possible, now. And
Oh,
I
yeah,
will
exactly. Yes.
I will say this. There are some states that are more prohibitive when it comes to gaining employment. But, often it's because the person doesn't try.
Exactly. That's what it. And don't get me wrong. This friend, when I say the one DUI,
Uh,
he quit school in high school. It's middle
yeah,
school, 7th grade. He was drinking and doping and yeah. So the one DUI, but he had been arrested, put in jail, put in penitentiary, off
yeah,
and on his life for 20 years. So it's more than
yeah,
just the one DUI. It's
right.
other things, but still. Um, and he was a decent mechanic while
Yeah,
he was in incarceration in the penitentiary. They had an automotive class for him so he can learn, get a certificate, so he can get out and get a job. And they're going to try to help him get a job because they don't want him coming back.
right.
And yeah, he decided he didn't want to complete the program.
Mm,
And one of the last times he did get locked up, they sent him to counseling, AA, and they're trying to talk with him. And he did say this to him, which is very true. He said he told the woman, and you can say everything you want, but until I get it in my own head, I want to change. There's nothing you're going to do to tell me.
yeah,
And she said, "Yep, you're right." And she said, "You don't have to come back anymore." and
yeah,
but and so yeah, you're right. Until he got it in his head to change. And like I said, he was a decent mechanic, but now, yeah, he's so old, and I don't know if he's even got a chance out there now. So all right, get off his stories, get on yours. So,
yeah.
but wait a minute, I got to go because I always tell this funny story, and I never tell the guy's name, even this one. But here's one of his funny ones. One time, we live in Tennessee, and one time years ago, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago, the lottery had finally got up to like the 1 billion mark,
Mhm.
$1 billion. And he come to me one day and he says, "Hey, you see what that lottery's up to?" And I said, "Yeah, man, it's 1 billion. Boy, I sure love to play it. I sure would love to win it. I never played it, but I would love to win it." And then
Mhm.
he goes like this. Here's his thinking. Here's his thinking. He says, "I'd love to win it too, but if I won it, they would take my food stamps away.
Mm,
They meaning the food stamp people, government.
yeah.
If I was to win that, they would take my food stamps away." And I said, "You could live off $500 million, 500 million. You couldn't live off that you need $190 in food stamps."
Yeah.
So that's his thinking when he says, "With my record, no one would hire me." And he, again, just like you know as well as do. I had this other buddy. We went to school together, and I don't think he graduated. He got in some serious trouble. He got locked up for 38 years.
Mm,
Just got out 6 months ago, and he's got a job working.
yeah.
So this guy, he just doesn't want to work.
Yeah.
So, and it's and I go, I'm only in a wheelchair, and I try my best to work.
Yeah.
and and here he is. So let's get off him. Let's get on to yours. Okay, so now then, you got your mind all fired up. You're ready to straight. You want to get out and do something to make a better life for you. Try to help others. I know you went to college, and what happened there?
Yeah. So, I was clean for about, so I don't know, almost 4 years. And the person I was in a relationship with relapsed on drugs, and he, uh, he went a little bit crazy, and I became a victim of his crime. And I was also working in social services at the time. I was supervising 3 case management programs for one of the largest nonprofits in Western Washington. And I just I didn't have the freedom. My contractual agreements prohibited me from actually helping people to overcome. I was supported in putting people in specific positions so they could, oh gosh, how do I want to say this? I think seem independent to, our homeless information management system, but that's not really what was going on. A lot of the times people would end up homeless again. They would be evicted. They had no skill set to actually maintain some of the things that we're doing. And then with my husband, I, because I'm married to the man, that relapsed years ago, I knew he was going to go into prison and get out the same person. And so I knew that there weren't lawmakers in position and people in our system that actually had the ability to create real solutions, because if you don't know, you don't know. If you haven't lived it, you're not going to know how to navigate your way out of it very well. And we can see that testament, throughout our system nationally. And so, and I don't
it's amazing how they try to make decisions on things they don't know about.
Yeah.
And they're too arrogant to try to find out more about it by interviewing someone like you or a disabled person like me. But they want to tell us how we ought to be doing our life.
That's right. Well, and that's what they've been trained to do. And they believe they're doing the right thing. And they believe that they know, and they believe that they have a better skill set. Right. And as with any single person, like I can't go into a hair salon and tell people how to start cutting hair. Right. Because
exactly.
And so, and that goes across the board, right? We all have, our niche or our expertise and our foundational learning and things like that. And you're right. If people need to be consulted. And so, understanding this and knowing the system as intimately from a defendant and a prisoner perspective and a service, provider perspective, just having such a multifaceted perspective, I knew that if I continued on and mind you, I was living in Seattle at the time and I was raising a minor child, and we were living just above the poverty line. I was spiritually rich. I was holding a position that seemed important, but it did not provide what I needed to actually care for my family. And so, a multitude of things sort of converged, and that's when I made the decision to go back to school. And when that happened, when I went back to school, I went back to community college. I was still working full time. I was still parenting my middle school age child. I was going through the trial process with my husband. I was visiting my eldest child in prison. And I was trying to support my middle child and my grandson as she, was sort of trying to gain some stability. And so my life was really full. And so I needed to raise my station, but I also wanted to create some solutions, because after considering my husband, I had to also consider the other 18,300 people that were incarcerated or that are incarcerated in the state of Washington. And I took into consideration the town where I'm from and the problems that the majority of people there have with drugs, with pregnancies, with single parent pregnancies, with economic challenges and system involvement. That's when I made the decision to go to school. And I knew that in order for me to actually get a degree that was going to be beneficial, that I had to go farther than an associate's degree. And I also knew I did not want to accrue a tremendous amount of debt. So I worked my buns off is what I did. I just worked really hard. I shot for scholarships and eventually I started being recruited by Ivy League schools. I made the decision to apply and attend the University of Washington in Seattle. I received a number of scholarships, and in 2020, I applied for and became the Washington State Truman Scholar, which is a pretty prestigious award that I wasn't even certain what. I just thought I was applying for some grad school money, and what I got was much greater than that. And so that's what happened. And and I excelled. I excelled in that process, and made it on the front page of the political science department, made it on the front page of UW's website. And I was surprising myself over and over again, because what I saw when I looked in the mirror was the drug addict with 17 felony convictions, who had a number of broken relationships, who had failed their children, who, that's what I saw. And as I excelled in some of these environments that I did not feel worthy to be in, I realized that I am as worthy as anyone else, and that I'm very capable. And then I started to really have this experience where I knew that my life experience had meaning, and that it held power, and that I did have a skill set and knowledge that was necessary to help a tremendous amount of people in our society.
Well, I think you've done pretty good.
Thank you.
So pretty good. So have you completed your grad?
Nope, I deferred my grad school. So last year, my story went viral all over the world. I was on a couple of documentaries in Seattle.
That's how I found you. What's the one?
Eric Johnson's
Thank you. Yes.
The Redemption of Ginny Burton.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I was on a couple of shows with Eric. Well, like 4. And he found me by accident one day before I started school. And then, he found a lot of value in my experience. And so we created a friendship, and we were very aligned, and still are very aligned on a lot of our perspectives around what's happening in our society nationally. But I was then contacted. I've been contacted by so many people, and I accepted a position down in San Diego County, where I helped to launch what's called the Overcomers Network. And I became actually your state commissioner, the state commissioner for Department of Human Services there in Tennessee. Clarence Carter is a friend of mine, and I was working with him as well. I was actually just visiting Nashville back in February.
Okay.
So I was doing some work with Commissioner Carter and some work with Solutions for Change down in North San Diego County. And so I deferred my grad school admission. And now I'm doing some other stuff back in Washington State. So I still have not made the decision to go to grad school. I think the access that I have right now and the platform that I have has given me an opportunity to achieve policy change, which is what I was going to go to school for, a master's in public policy. But the platform that I have right now has given me the ability to impact and affect change in a way that's far greater than that master's degree would allow me. I still have the scholarship from the Truman Foundation available to me when I'm ready to go to grad school. I think that my trajectory will probably be a little bit different. And I think probably if I make the decision to go back to grad school, that it will be for simply the pleasure of an education, as opposed to achieving a career milestone, if that makes sense.
Well, and I'm just going to tell you, you don't have to take a full load to continue on and do everything else you're doing. You just take one class, a semester, in 5 years you'll have one. So you don't have to feel like you have to beat yourself up. But again, if there's really no benefit of getting it compared to what you're doing now, there's no need wasting your time with it. And so but it's one of the things that's totally up to you.
Yes, for sure.
And so I couldn't fault you either way. I'm just so pleased and glad and so proud that I got to meet you through this.
Thank you. Same.
And for you to have found your way finally and let the world see you blossom out there, to see the real you, not the fake wannabe high. I wish I could have. Things could have been different. That you finally fought through it. And and everybody's getting to witness the real you persevering. Got to take a perseverance in there through hardship. And so it's amazing to me that when I get to talk to people like you and me and others, that just their journey just fires me up. So
yeah, I'm the same way, and I agree with you. And more than the rest of the world getting to see my transformation, I have been so grateful to experience my own transformation because I had no self-belief for many, many years. I did not think that success, which for me means following through and attaining my goals, I didn't think that that was possible for someone like myself. I didn't see myself as worthy or having any value. And when I get the opportunity to stop and take a look at what I'm accomplishing, even just my daily routine of doing the same thing over and over again, that's where the hard work exists. Continuing to show up for the things that we consider mundane or that have been labeled boring or what have you. That's actually the hard work. And for me to experience myself doing that, that is where the blessings have existed for me, is really being able to see my worth as a human being because I'm a human being, not because I've accomplished things, but just because I'm on this earth. And that's the message that I try to give to others. It's like, you are worthy. You are so worthy just as you are.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. And I go to the place where I tell people that if you can't love yourself, how can you expect other people to? And
You
so
can only get what you got.
you've got to respect yourself enough to do the hard work, to not to go back to do whatever happened. So you got to respect yourself and work. I'm in a wheelchair. I've said it before, and I have to work on keeping my weight down,
Mm-hmm.
and because of lack of exercise.
Yeah.
But here's what's relevant to what you're just saying about the hard part is your daily routine, trying to just stay and do. I find it's easier for me when I lose weight than it
Mm-hmm.
is to maintain it afterwards.
Yeah.
And so here you are with your transformation. You're talking about difficult days on just doing the right things, the boring things, to maintain it. And so yeah, that I can see that happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
So well, Jenny, is that how Forrest Gump did it?
That's
Jenny,
right. That is
there you
exactly.
go. Well, I'm just so blessed that I got to meet you and we got to go through this, and I appreciate you being vulnerable and opening up and sharing with us to help the next person that's going to get a chance to watch this. They say this stuff on the internet's there forever, so just
Yeah.
think 100 years from now, someone's going to find you, and then you're going to straighten them up too.
Well, thank you, JB.
All right. Hey, tell your social media, website, anything like that, and have people may want to reach out that's struggling with theirs, and maybe you can help them.
For sure. So I have a website. It is www.v as in Victor, GINNYBURTON.com. So vginnyburton.com. My Facebook, you can find my public figure page, which is V Ginny on Facebook. My personal page is V Ginny Burton on Facebook. I am V Ginny Burton on Instagram, and I am Virginia Burton on LinkedIn. You can find me in all of those places.
All right, you just told me why what the V was representing when you said the last one.
Yes, it's Virginia. And
Okay.
and I also have a group on Facebook. It's called Courage to Change, Gratitude and Goals.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's a support group essentially where we go in and we list the things that we're grateful for. It's not addiction specific. It is about goals. It is about overcoming and challenging ourselves to meet the things that might seem mundane on a daily basis, supporting each other through those things. So that's Courage to Change, Goals and Gratitude on Facebook.
And I'll try to catch as many of these as I can. I'll put in the show notes to make it easier for people to find you and click on the link and go from there. So,
Okay.
all right, Jenny, again, thank you for being here. If you can leave
Yeah.
us one last thing here, we know people are hurting and struggling. And
Yeah.
if you can help with one big, huge positive nugget that could help them get through today, that'd be a blessing.
Yeah. I think sometimes people look at stories like mine and you see where I'm at now. You see where a person is at in their, the sort of their overcoming phase. And you don't see all the work that's been put in behind it. What I try to let people know is that yes, you can. And you do it by starting out. You can only go 10 miles by taking one step. You start out by taking one step. And so It's also a huge benefit to encourage and ask for support from others when we're taking those steps, right? When we surround ourselves with other people that are heading in the same direction. So I just want people to know always that yes, you can, that we can do this together, that you do not have to do it alone. And the things that we tell ourselves are often lies. And whatever we tell ourselves is the truth. Right? It's our truth. They might be lies, but it's our truth. So we have to be really careful what we tell ourselves. And if we want to change the message that we're telling ourselves, we do it the same way we adopted the message on that we're repeating to ourselves on a daily basis. We just start saying it. And so make a list of the things that you want to think and feel about yourself. Start looking at yourself in the mirror and saying those things out loud every day. Find other people that are heading in the same direction. Ask for the support of those people. More often than not, we don't want to feel alone, and that includes every human being on the face of this planet. So find me on my social media, talk to the professor of perseverance, and really learn that we're not doing anything that nobody else isn't capable of doing.
Amen, sister. Hey, you can't win the Super Bowl, World Series, or any championship without a supporting cast.
That's
So,
right. And it
know,
all
yeah,
starts with the first step.
yeah, exactly. And again, you don't have to agree with everybody 100%. You don't have to like
Yep.
the people, but you need to respect each other and respect decisions, respect the help. So,
That's right.
hey, Ginny, thank you for being here. Everybody else, hey, be sure to share this out. With someone that can use some good inspiration today to help them get through the next level of their life. I'm Dr. James Purdue, the Professor of Perseverance. Thank you for being on the Professor of Perseverance podcast. Do something today, tomorrow, something next week that's going to help you persevere past your